In this video, we're going to install a set of Tusk Crash Bars onto a Kawasaki KLR650. The Tusk Crash Bars for the KLR are constructed of 1-inch powder-coated steel tubing and feature a reliable 3-point mounting system that provides crash protection for your engine, exhaust header, and the vulnerable tank shrouds on your bike. They're built to stand up to the roughest adventure riding and are a must-have for any KLR650 owner. So the first step of the install is just to make sure all your hardware and pieces are accounted for. After that, we can begin by removing both side panels from the bike. Next, we can remove the seat and then move on to the tank shrouds. For these, we only need to pull 3 of the 4 mounting bolts, and doing that will allow us to remove the fuel tank a little later. So we'll loosen and remove the bolt up top connecting the headlight cowl to the tank shroud. Be careful not to lose the small spacer that fits between them. After that, we can move down and remove 2 of the other mounting bolts. The frontmost mount for both shrouds can just stay in place. After that, we'll just pop both shrouds loose and let that front mount hold them in place. Next, we're going to move over to the petcock and we'll make sure it's in the off position before we go ahead and pull both hoses from it. After that, we can move up to the hoses coming from the tank. We'll want to mark these so we know which way to reinstall them after we're done. So we'll go ahead and pull both those hoses, and after that we'll use our 10mm T-handle to remove both the bolts securing the back end of the fuel tank. After that, we can go ahead and pull the tank. The next step is to move down to the skid plate. We're running a Ricochet skid plate on this bike, and we only had to loosen the mounting hardware to be able to complete the install. You may be required to remove your skid plate, and in most cases it will make installing the crash bars easier. So now we'll remove the 2 front bolts from the front engine mount. After we've got those out of the way, we can move up to the subframe bolts. So we're going to remove this right subframe bolt using our 8mm Allen head T-handle. Once that's out of the way, we'll install one of the provided 22mm spacers, and we're also going to put some medium strength thread locker onto the threads of the provided 10 by 55mm hex flange bolt. After that, we can position the right side crash bar up into place on the bike and align the rear mounting hole with the subframe mount, and then attach it using that bolt. We're just going to leave this bolt loose for now to make attaching the other mounts of the crash bars easier. So next, we're going to move to the bottom mount and attach it using the 2 provided 8 by 110mm hex bolts. Each one of those is going to run through a flat washer, then through the right crash bar mounting tab, through a provided 7mm spacer, and through the front engine mount. On the other side of the frame, we'll install another 7mm spacer so it's ready for the other crash bar. We're going to repeat that same sequence for the upper bolt and run it through a flat washer, through the hole in the mounting tab, through another 7mm spacer, through the engine mount and frame, and then add another 7mm spacer onto the other side. Now we're ready to move up and pull the left side subframe bolt. After that's been removed, we'll slide another 22mm spacer into place and put a little medium strength thread locker onto the threads of our new bolt before attaching the left crash bar onto the bike. Again, we're just going to leave this bolt loose for now. Next, we're going to position the lower mounting tab for the left crash bar into place by sliding it over the bolts we previously installed. And then we'll add a flat washer and nylock nut to each of those. To make lining up the mounting holes in the tube clamp easier, we're going to tighten the 2 front engine mount bolts a little bit, and that will pull the tube clamp closer around the down tube and make installing each bolt a lot easier. Next, we're going to apply a little medium strength thread locker to each one of the provided 6 by 20mm Allen head bolts, and then we'll install one into each one of the mounting holes in the tube clamp. These bolts can take some finesse to get started, but once you have one in place, it'll make it easier to thread the other 3 bolts in. So now we have all the crash bar hardware loosely installed, we can now go back through and tighten down everything. We're going to start with the lower mount and tighten down both those bolts the rest of the way. After those have been snugged down, we'll move up and get both the subframe bolts. When those are tight, we'll finish with the 4 Allen heads in the tube clamp. Once we're sure all the hardware for the Tusk Crash Bars has been tightened down, we can put the bike back together. So we'll reinstall the fuel tank and reconnect the vent hoses. After that, we can reconnect both hoses to the petcock. Reinstall the seat and the side panels. And finally secure the tank shrouds back into place. After all that's been done, we're ready for our next adventure. Rocky Mountain ATV MC has all the parts, accessories, and apparel you need to be ready for your next adventure. Thanks for watching.